Have you ever felt like you're running on a financial treadmill? You do everything by the book. You go to school, land a good job, work hard, climb the ladder, and save a portion of your paycheck. You follow all the rules. And yet, somehow, the finish line of financial freedom seems to move farther away every time you take a step forward. It's because most of us are playing the wrong game. We were taught one set of rules, while the truly wealthy are playing by an entirely different one. Imagine that two financial rulebooks exist side by side. The first one, designed for the majority, teaches you how to be a good employee and a smart consumer. It teaches you how to work for money. But there's a second rulebook, an unpublished handbook quietly passed down among owners and asset holders. This rulebook doesn't teach you how to make money. It teaches you how to make money work for you. In today's video, we're going to open that secret rulebook. I'll walk you through the 7 foundational rules of the owner's game, the rules that fundamentally change when you shift from being a worker to being an owner. And the final rule will permanently change how you see money, wealth, and financial freedom. Let's begin. The first rule. The credit system suddenly treats you in a completely different way. When you don't have collateral, you go to the bank asking for a loan. What do they look at? They review your employment history, monthly income, and credit score. Essentially, they're betting on you, on your ability to keep working hard and continue making payments. You are considered a personal risk. But the moment you own something of value, a house, an investment portfolio, the game changes. The next time you walk into a bank, they're no longer just evaluating you, they're evaluating your assets. They lend to you not because they trust you, but because they trust what you own. The risk is no longer tied to your character or effort. It becomes a recoverable risk. Someone can rent for 20 years, pay every bill on time, and still be classified as nothing more than a consumer. But the moment another person owns their first home, they're instantly labeled a preferred client. Suddenly, interest rates are lower, loan terms are longer, conditions are more flexible. Why? Because the system is not designed to reward your hard work. It's designed to protect itself. And in the eyes of the system, someone who has assets to lose is always safer than someone who has nothing to sell but their labor. Assets transform you from someone who is constantly being evaluated into someone who gets chosen. And this leads us directly to the second rule of the game. You stop selling time in exchange for money. For 99% of the population, income follows a simple equation. Time plus effort equals money. You work 8 hours, you get paid for 8 hours. You work overtime, you earn more. But this equation has a fatal limitation. Your time is finite. The moment you stop working, the money stops flowing. Your income is permanently tied to your physical presence. But when you begin to own income-producing assets, that equation breaks. Assets don't need sleep. They don't take vacations. They don't get sick. Your rental property still generates rent on the first of every month, no matter where you are. Dividends from your stocks still hit your account, whether you're working or not. Your small business can continue operating even when you step away. This is the concept of leverage the word wealthy people are always talking about. They don't use their time as the sole input. They use assets as leverage to generate income. They build money-making machines instead of turning themselves into the machine. Ask yourself this question. Is your current job simply helping you survive day to day, or is it building something that will continue to exist and support you even when you choose to rest? Because poor people work for money. The wealthy build systems, so money works for them. Once you have those systems in place, the third rule comes into effect. Failure is no longer the end of the road. When your only assets are your labor and a small amount of savings in a bank account, a single financial mistake can be catastrophic. Losing your job, making a bad investment decision, a failed startup. Any one of these can push you back to the starting line or even into negative territory. This fear keeps them from taking risks or trying anything new. But when you own assets, you gain something called a financial buffer. Imagine you invest in a startup and it fails. That's painful. But at the same time, rental income from your property is still coming in. Dividends are still being paid. Your life doesn't collapse. Assets act like financial shock absorbers, absorbing the impact of setbacks on the road to wealth. This gives owners a powerful psychological advantage. They are allowed to fail safely. They can take calculated risks, because they know that a single failure cannot wipe out everything they've built. They don't see failure as the end of the world. They see it as expensive tuition for a valuable lesson. So it's not that wealthy people make fewer mistakes than the rest of us. It's that they've built systems strong enough to survive their own mistakes. Next comes the fourth rule, a concept that sounds counterintuitive, yet is completely true. Inflation starts working in your favor. For wage earners, inflation is an invisible monster that quietly erodes purchasing power. Your salary goes up by 5%, but gas prices, food prices, and rent rise by 7%. In real terms, you're getting poorer without even realizing it. Even the money sitting in your bank account is losing value every single day. But for asset owners, inflation becomes an ally. Why? Let's look at two key factors. First, the value of your assets. Real estate, land, shares of strong companies tends to rise with inflation, or even faster than it does. Second, and this is where the real magic happens, your debt stays fixed. Imagine you borrow $300,000 from the bank to buy a house. 10 years later, due to inflation, that house is now worth $500,000, and the rent it generates has increased as well. But what about the $300,000 loan? It's still $300,000. The difference is that the real value of that debt has fallen dramatically. You're using cheaper future dollars to pay off a debt taken on in the past. In effect, inflation is helping you repay your loan. The same inflationary environment makes the poor poorer and the wealthy wealthier, because they're standing on opposite sides of the financial equation. When you have assets backing you up, you begin to understand the fifth rule of the game. Risk becomes a choice, not a necessity. When you have nothing, everything is a risk. Staying in a job you hate is a risk because you could be laid off at any time. Changing jobs is also a risk because the new one might not work out. Not investing is a risk because inflation erodes your money. Investing is a risk because you could lose money. You're constantly forced to go all in just to survive. But when you have cash flow from assets, you gain a luxury. The ability to say no. You can patiently wait for a truly good investment opportunity. You can turn down a job offer that doesn't fit because you're not under immediate financial pressure. You can observe, analyze, and act only when the odds are clearly in your favor. This is the difference between being forced to take risks to survive and being able to choose risks to grow. Risk is only truly terrifying when you have nothing backing you up. Once you have assets, cash flow, and the power of choice, the sixth rule reveals itself. The system starts working with you. Before this, as a consumer, you were a source of profit for the system. Banks made money from you through credit card interest and service fees. Corporations profited from your spending habits. You were managed by rules, policies, and fine print. But when you become an owner, a business owner, a property owner, a significant shareholder, your role changes. You're no longer just a customer. You become a partner. Banks don't want to lose you because you bring large, reliable loans. Companies want to keep you because you're a shareholder. The system needs you to remain stable and functional. That's when strange things start to happen. Preferential offers begin to find you. Contract terms become more flexible. Doors to opportunities you never even knew existed suddenly open. You're no longer forced to play strictly by the system's rules. You begin to have a voice in shaping them. Because consumers are controlled by rules, but owners are guided by incentives. And finally, the seventh rule. This isn't really a rule, it's a shift in philosophy. It's the moment when money is no longer the final goal. When you're still struggling, money is everything. It's food, it's a shelter, it's security. Your entire mental focus revolves around a single question: how do I make more money? But once you've built a solid asset foundation, that question naturally changes. You stop asking, how do I earn more? And you start asking, where should my money be placed to create the greatest value? Money shifts from being the destination to becoming fuel. Fuel to reinvest. Fuel to expand. Fuel to build something larger. Fuel to create impact. You move from being a foot soldier chasing every dollar to becoming a general allocating resources across strategic fronts. This is the biggest transition of all, from earning a living to managing an asset engine. True wealth is not measured by how much money you have in your bank account. It's measured by whether you know exactly where your money should go and what it should be doing. So that brings us to the end of the 7 rules of the owner's game. We grow up being taught to work hard. That isn't wrong, but it's not enough. We're taught to save money. That's wise, but it doesn't create freedom. The first step to rewriting your financial story is ownership. Start owning something, no matter how small, that can create value even while you sleep. Once you understand these rules, you'll never see the financial world the same way again. You'll no longer fear the game, because for the first time, you understand how it actually works. And when you understand the rules, you can begin playing on your own terms. If this video gave you a new perspective, share it with a friend or a colleague, someone you know who is also trying to escape the financial treadmill. Because realizing that a different game exists might be the very beginning they've been looking for.